stories now for you as we delve into the audio held in the Pacifica Radio Archives, the oldest public radio collection in the United States. Up all night, Joanne Griffith joins us from LA. Joanne, another archives gem in the guise of actor Jack Nicholson.
Yes, I was really happy to find out about this, and it was again one of those kind of chance discoveries. I was talking with one of the producers at the archives, Mark Torres, and I just briefly shortly on Hollywood, and I know the archives pretty well. I've been doing this for about 3.5 years now, and he was like, "Oh, have you done Jack Nicholson?" And I was like, "We have Jack Nicholson." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's not in the catalogue when you, the Pacifica Radio Archives has an online catalogue." And he says, "Oh, no, it's not on the online catalogue, but it's in our, only for the eyes of a few people."
Oh, you've got one of those. You've got your own secret catalogue that the rest of us can't see. Oh,
you know how I rolled on. So we kind of dug around and we got the archive material. And I have to say, it's not often that I listen to the entirety of the material that I get, because often, it goes on for a couple of hours and what have you. But I sat down and I listened to this whole discussion with Jack Nicholson. He's not somebody who actually gives a vast amount of interviews. So this in and of itself is fairly rare. It's actually from the San Francisco International Film Festival in 1976, where he was being honoured, and they had him for, it must have been about an hour or so, doing a question and answer session with the crowd. So that's what we're going to hear tonight. I've actually got 3 cuts, so we're going to see if we can actually get to all of those, because the audio is just so rich, so wonderful, and you really see a different side to Jack Nicholson. So joining us to discuss the life and times of Jack Nicholson is Dennis McDougal. He's a journalist and author of many books, including 5 Easy Decades, How Jack Nicholson Became the Biggest Movie Star in Modern Times, and he also has another book that's just come out called The Candlestick Maker. Hi there, Dennis.
Hello, Joanne. That was 6 reelies, I believe, there before you got to the happy part of locating the tape. It was really, I counted 6. So
that's how happy and excited I am. You just don't understand.
Well, you sound effusive.
I'm not one to hide my enthusiasm for things, but you yourself are a real Jack Nicholson enthusiast. You've written a biography on the life and times of the man. We know him for films like Easy Rider, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Shining. But how did he actually
5 Easy Pieces, that's the title of the man's book, don't forget that.
And that get into that. Dennis. It's going to be one of those nights, I can tell. But Dennis, how did he actually get his start in acting? Because he's not just an actor, he's a director also and a writer. But, how did he actually get his start? It wasn't, something that was necessarily going to happen, really, was it?
Well, no. As a matter of fact, he was about ready to throw in the towel. Jack Nicholson is typical of the Hollywood overnight success story. Only his overnight took approximately 15 years before he was discovered in Easy Rider. He came to Hollywood right after he graduated from high school in New Jersey in 1954. And he spent the next 15 years working in the vineyards, doing some of the worst motion pictures ever produced. He was one of Roger Corman's core of young actors who performed in a number of abortive comedies and dramas in the late 50s and early 60s. But as I say, 1969 rolled around, and he was one movie away from just chucking it all and saying that he was going to spend the rest of his career behind the camera and not in front of it.
And what a waste that would have been.
Oh, absolutely.
We're so thankful.
Absolutely.
So thankful to Cry Baby Killer and also to Easy Rider. Now, I want to jump straight into some audio because, as I said, we've got 3 cuts tonight instead of the usual 2. Now, as I said, he really is known as a private man. He doesn't really give a vast amount of interviews. But the Pacifica Radio Archives holds a recording from 1976, as I said, a lengthy question and answer session at the San Francisco Film Festival. all. Now, in this clip that we're going to hear, he fields a number of questions from the audience about his background, his various co-stars, directors. But here, he first responds to a question about Easy Rider and whether he thought it would be so pivotal for his career.
No, in fact, there's someone here who knows that just shortly after I finished filming Easy Rider, I made a very tidy sellout to a film called On a Clear Day. So I thought, I knew that it was a good job, but people make you think you do a good job whether you do or not. So I had felt before I had done some good jobs and nothing much had ever happened. So I thought this would be nice, and I was glad. I knew the part right away was right in there. And once the first audience that weren't friends of mine saw it, I must say, I went, this is going to be a lot easier from here on.
Is it true that there was a debate between Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper whether or not to have you play an Easy Rider?
Well, there wasn't really a debate between them or anyone. Neither of them wanted me to be in the film. Not because, for different reasons, I suppose, but certainly in Dennis's case, whose job it was, he thought there were other actors who could do the part better, and I tended to agree with him at the time. But the real reason that I wound up in the picture was for production reasons. The film started out as a non-union crew of Dennis's own very esoteric selection. And after some chaos and problems, they had to go out and in a documentary style shoot the Mardi Gras before that they actually had even the completed script of the film. And they had a lot of problems, and I had been doing other non-union films on the side, and after doing it for a few years, I had collected the names of a nucleus of a very solid non-union production shooting company, and most of them I gave to Dennis